Hello everyone, welcome to the Payback 2016 review and results video here on the CC Network. I'm Fred, your ever-reliable host as always, ready to take on the first of the calendar year pay-per-view offerings from the WWE. Now after WrestleMania last month was actually surprisingly solid, I inevitably came into this feeling quite good about it, inevitably because the matches looked like they were good on paper, and many people were thinking, you know what? This could actually be somewhat good. I know there are some people out there who thought this event sucked, and I'm going to say this to you right now, you have no idea what you're talking about. That should be an inkling as to what I'm going to be giving this show by the end, but nonetheless, even with the good points of this show, of course, there is the one negative of what happened with one particular opening contest, which we'll get to in a bit. Now, before I get to this review outright, I want to just announce something, that this will be the last piece of wrestling content you see for a good couple of weeks, probably until the next pay-per-view or the next Friday Flashback review later on in the month towards the end, because I've realised I've not done anything other than wrestling content on this channel since November. And that includes Ryder Goes Over, which, due to Ryder going over in real life and me losing the desire to actually do it regularly, it proves I really need to sort my stuff out and inevitably throw that aside. I need to do things that aren't all wrestling, and I hope you guys understand, for a multi-content channel like this, I kind of need to. So if you see other videos that aren't wrestling related, don't worry. This is what a multi-content channel does. We've got to keep going, and that's that. But back on charge with this pay-per-view, let's look at the pre-show matches, because I do not review pre-show matches. If you are new to my channel, hello, that's one of the rules I do. And inevitably, because they aren't part of the DVD package of this event, I have to just gloss over them, and that's that. Dolph Ziggler defeated Baron Corbin with a schoolboy pin in quite a decent match, but inevitably nothing too spectacular. But the one thing I was disappointed is I actually wanted to watch this. And annoyingly, Dolph Ziggler got the win when I predicted Corbin to win, but I'm happy that he got it in the same way that Austin Aries did at NXT Dallas. So, what more can I say there? It worked out. And of course, we had Kalisto defending the US title against Ryback. And I have to ask this question, how the hell did he survive that gorilla press slam off the top rope and immediately hit the Samurai del Sol for the win? How? That to me never made sense, and it kind of makes Ryback's attacks not look as deadly as they honestly should, especially considering this guy is roughly 6'3", so come on, damn it. But anyway, it was a good match. I would say go back onto the pre-show and watch it. It is well worth your time. I probably would give it around 2.5 to 2 3/4 star if I was rating it. Sadly, I am not, which is not fun. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, enough with the talking. It's been 3 or so minutes already. Let's get on with the main review. First off, we have that opening contest in question between Enzo and Cass and the Vaudevillains to be crowned the #1 contenders for the Tag Team Championships in the final of the New Day tournament. Now, this match was starting pretty good. It was back and forth between both teams, some good double team moves, and the crowd were into it. The New Day was celebrating with pizza and lemonade. It was all going so well. Then reality struck of just how dangerous this sport is, and it hit us like a knife in the side of the chest, and it wasn't good. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't watched this show and you have no idea what all the hubbub was about across social media over the last few hours, let me state what happened here. Enzo was whipped from Frank Gotch into the ropes. Enzo's head smashed with the second rope, rebounded backwards onto the canvas, and he slipped under next to the apron, where he looked like he had been knocked the fuck out. And I don't mean to hyperbolize it, but it's true. His eyes were glazed over and open, and it was horrifying, because he was not moving. And a stretcher had to be called, the match was annulled, and Enzo was taken to a local medical facility where he was found to have a concussion, which thank God it was just a concussion, because if it was anything else, it would be horrible to commentate on in any stretch. And the fact that the rest of the night had to follow this was quite horrifying. The thing is, this just shows how dangerous this sport is, in the fact that these things can happen. To anyone who says that wrestling is fake or it doesn't hurt, you need to look at this. This is what happens in pro wrestling. These things can happen. I don't put any blame on Frank Gotch whatsoever, because accidents do happen in the ring. Sometimes it can end in a concussion like this, or in the case of Perry Aguayo Jr. in a very similar situation down in AAA in Mexico, where this kind of whiplash effect happens, and you end up suffering a brain injury and you die from it. Wrestling is inherently dangerous, we all know that, and to have anyone tell us that it isn't, I would say to them, look at this. The guy hits the ring rope head on and gets knocked the hell out. And he gets taken to the hospital. This happens in pro wrestling. It is rare, but it happens. The one problem that I have, though, is that I have to review this still. And that's a hard thing to do, because I know a lot of you are thinking, Fred, you cannot assign a rating to this match. It was finished before it could really get going, and a guy got injured. You cannot rate this anything. The thing is, it's still a sanctioned match, and I have to do my job as a critic and reviewer of this product. The thing is, the crowd reaction and the match length and pacing got a 1.5 each, and the psychology was starting to build. The move variety would have probably had a few elements too added on, and my enjoyment was actually relatively okay. But the thing is, this match gets a 0, and that may seem cruel, but this is just how the cookie crumbles, everybody. I have to do my job, and this match got a 0. The good thing is, it's not as bad as the R-Truth Curtis Axel match from Fastlane or the Rock vs. Eric Rowan match from WrestleMania. Both of those were worse because they lasted less time and had nothing to offer whatsoever. So I can be kind to this match in that it won't win the worst pay-per-view match of the year award at my Wrestling Rant Awards thing in December. But the one thing I will say is I hope when they do their rematch, they can wrestle their socks off and prove their worth in this. And the good thing is, I'm happy that it was a concussion. Just a concussion. Because if it was anything worse, we would have seen a horrible situation. And Enzo, I hope we get you back trash-talking everyone else out into the yard very soon. Because, man, you are entertaining as hell. And as I put it, you are cocaine personified, and I wouldn't have you any other way. Get well soon, Enzo. I'm sorry this match is a 0, but that's just how it goes. And I'm even more horrified in thinking this is the opening contest. The crowd and the whole match length of the rest of this show has to follow on from that. Yeesh. Let's see how they managed to rebound from it. And they started with Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Oh, hell yes. And it was Kevin Owens who got the win. Correct prediction for me. I'm very happy here, first of the night. The psychology got a 3. There's a simple reasoning for this, because I understand the balancing of psychology is telling the story of the match and the rivalry while also selling and working the punishment of the match via body parts, facial reactions, etc., etc. And the reason why I gave it a 3 is I felt the story of the match was well executed. In the fact that these guys hated each other, they wanted to punch each other up the side of the head, throw each other around, and just cause them unbearable amounts of pain. The aggression was there, and inevitably they were selling the match's punishment, slow moving, and just really progressively getting a lot worse. The thing is, not a lot of body parts were sold, and a lot of times the momentum shifted so much that I couldn't really take that this match was draining them seriously. And inevitably, while this told a great story in that, yeah, Zayn inevitably had to and desired to fight back from being mauled early on to hit Owens with multiple 10 punches areas more, shouting motherfucker upon Owens kicking out at 2, with all the near falls amping the drama up, with Owens then showing his resilience by fighting out of every finisher that Zayn had in his offense. It really showed how equal these two are in knowing each other, and it inevitably played out fantastically, because I had no idea how this match was going to end, and it played out superbly from there. But I would have liked the pace to have not been so quick, so that inevitably the selling could be done properly, and inevitably if they did focus on a body part, like Owens' back for instance, which I think Owens did work a little with a few submission moves, it didn't really help out too much. And okay, it could have been more, but as those big outside moves did their job in slowing the pace down and showing the punishment, I can't go too nuts on it, but inevitably I would have wished that the psychology had a bit more to it considering these two's rivalry. But then again, Extreme Rules is next month, and you know, these two in a hardcore match, Oh yes, it is going to be glorious for sure, as we know Owens gets his best matches out of those environments too. The move variety was a 2 for simple reasoning, the springboard suplex. What more do I have to say about that? The half Nelson suplex, countered afterwards into a clothesline by Owens, which was amazing. Can't deny it. The tornado DDT counter into a backbreaker. Superb. Then the back body drop onto the LED apron. Good God almighty. That was fantastic. These were big moves. Big moves. And okay, yes, sure, launching a gourd buster into a front suplex onto the ropes and springing back again isn't a big thing, but I haven't seen Owens do it. So inevitably it counts for something. They were big moves and one little bit to kind of make me go, yep, that's all I need. And inevitably, it works out fine. 2 is good just for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the crowd reaction was a 3.5, and I understand that both these two are loved because they are that damn good, and the crowd gave them respect, chanting for Zayn, chanting for Owens, olaying, and just feeding into the heel tactics of Owens superbly. They were loud for pretty much the entire thing, but even they were kind of wondering, okay, this match is kind of nice, but it's not really going anywhere in certain points. They were kind of bored midway through thinking, I can support these guys, but we don't know what's going to happen, and I'm kind of uneasy. And inevitably, even with the near falls and them bursting out of their seats, the end felt kind of muted because they thought, oh really, he's going to get pinned just off a pop-up powerbomb and that's it? It inevitably fell flat in some areas, but they were loud from the start, and were reasonably loud throughout. I can't deny it. They added some extra layering to this match, and it worked out just about fine. Now, to the match length and pacing, a 4. I will give the pacing some credit in starting aggressive, working its way down to slow, and then building its way back up with adrenaline through the final moments. It did its job, even though it impacted on the psychology, which is why I've ranked it down. But the thing is, this match actually lasted a lot shorter than I thought, at 14 minutes. Inevitably, I didn't expect this to go that long. I thought it was going to go at least 5 minutes more, and the fact it went shorter meant that they didn't go overboard. They didn't need to. It was a simple fight, and it was simply executed. Inevitably, it paid off, because if it went any longer, I may have not enjoyed it as much. And speaking of my enjoyment, well, it was a 4 as well. Inevitably, this match is just what the Chicago crowd needed to get back into the pay-per-view following what happened to Enzo Amore, and it did a brilliant job of doing so. Brilliant job enough for me to give it a 3.5 star rating. It was so close to getting a 3 3/4 star, you could just sniff it. If it was going to be the psychology amping up to a 3.5, then it would have done it. If the move variety was a 2.5, yeah, combine that together, you would have had a 4-star match there. It was so close, I could taste it. But inevitably, it wasn't. 3.5 stars, though, following what was quite a scary opening scene. I cannot be disappointed with that. In fact, if anyone is, I'm wondering what the hell is going on. Then you, of course, have what Owens did after the match, just make it even better. And then he decided to go to the commentary table for the next match. Good God almighty, Owens, you crazy bastard. I love you. Nonetheless, let's get on to that next match. And that match is The Miz defeating Cesaro. Now this one, I'm going to say it right now, that my enjoyment of this match was a lot higher than it should have been. I gave it a 3, one whole point of which was Kevin Owens on commentary. Go listen to that match back. Listen to Owens verbally destroying Michael Cole, destroying Byron Saxton, talking about the men and their tactics. He did a better job than most of these guys do regularly. And that says a lot, ladies and gentlemen, I can be sure. And the thing is, the match overall wasn't too bad either. The psychology was a 3, and I have to admit, last time these two had a match, which I think was Elimination Chamber 2012 or 2013 or something, when Miz was a face, this was a surprisingly entertaining contest with a lot of psychology of working body parts. I knew these two had good chemistry together, and it played out just as well here, with Miz working the surgically repaired shoulder of Cesaro so he couldn't pull off some moves. But at the beginning, he just pressed up thinking, yeah, you think you can target this shoulder? It's in good nick, sir. I'm going to punch you to oblivion. And he did. lo and behold. But as the match wore on and Miz targeted it with almost every move he could think of, it showed that Cesaro was somewhat human, and I cannot deny how fun that was to watch. And inevitably, Maryse did distract Cesaro a few times. Cesaro did shrug it off, but inevitably I would have liked Maryse to have been more involved here, because she is paramount to the Miz entirely. And not to mention the fact that not just that, Miz was working that shoulder, he rammed it into the steel post, he was flying moves everywhere, he was kicking it and stopping the Cesaro swing by doing so. It was surprisingly well done. And you know what? The psychology had an extra bump because not only was Owens at commentary waiting to say, you know what, I'm going to get my title back, Zayn then came out and beat the living crap out of him, and that then resulted in the referee being distracted, allowing for Miz to get the victory. I was wondering how he would. I was wondering, and inevitably it worked out perfectly, because this was the only way I could have been fine with it, without Maryse being the instigator, which is actually why I'm sad in a way that she didn't, but it gave me a story that Cesaro was being worked over a while and showed Miz to be competent in the ring, and Cesaro, even while fighting back, still couldn't overcome the odds, even with his ability to do so. I couldn't be more happier on that front. It worked out well. Move variety was a 1. I mean, apart from the leapfrog into a tilt-a-whirl by Cesaro and that drop kick to a top rope positioned Miz, nothing else really stood out for me, and I can't give it any more than that. The crowd was a 2. Now, they were loving Cesaro, obviously. They loved the brawl between Owens and Zayn. The rest of it, though, when Miz was in charge, they were not really into it at all, and I have to admit that's because it's the Miz. He's easy to hate, and you can boo him, and you can also sit in silence. You can do whatever you want. But I look at this and think, it's the low point of the match, really, because it didn't really do its job on that front. I can't really be sure with that one, that's all I can say. The crowd get a 2, but I wish they could have been more into this match, because it was a lot more enjoyable than they gave it credit for, that's for sure. Match length and pacing was a 2, and Match length and pacing was a 2.5, and inevitably, I felt it went for the right length of time, just over 11 minutes, it had its peaks and troughs, it did its job. I felt, though, that the pacing was a little substandard. Cesaro was quick, sure, Miz was slow and reserved and methodical, sure, but it inevitably was too predictable and a bit samey for me. I felt that it could have been a lot more balanced, that it was way too quick at times when it shouldn't have been, and slow when it shouldn't have been. And I felt that it wasn't timed in that regard to perfection. I felt that the timing of the match itself lengthwise was nice, but it wasn't divergent enough to fit with the subtle destruction that Cesaro was going through. If Cesaro was being beaten down, he didn't really show it, and the pace of the match looked artificial, to be certain. I felt that it could have been a bit better executed, but what am I going to do? The match was still decent. And that plays into my rating here, because I enjoyed this match quite a bit, even though it didn't live up to higher ends of Cesaro's match quality. But when you're working with The Miz and you get a decent match out of it, I couldn't be more happy. The result worked out as I expected, and it added extra elements with Zayn and Owens involved. Inevitably, it gets a 2.5-star rating. That doesn't sound too bad. I wasn't expecting that rating from this one, and that's a good thing. I'm quite surprised. This show is doing exactly what I need it to do after Enzo, and I'm loving it. Keep it coming, guys. Now we get to Dean Ambrose defeating Chris Jericho. Now this was an interesting match, because some people will say it's bad, some will say it's good, but what am I going to judge? Ladies and gentlemen, the psychology was a 3, and this is mostly thanks to Jericho being Jericho. Complaining when he can't get his way in a match, shouting all his obscenities, you know, all that stuff, it works. Not to mention that after the opening part of the contest, he is being wailed into by a guy who wants to teach him a lesson, and inevitably he crawls or waddles on his knees to the referee and hugs him, telling him he's killing me out there, stop it! And that was superb. And the fact that Ambrose was kicking out of just about everything made me realise, you know what, this is just Ambrose's usual shtick, but in the fact that his back was being wore down constantly through moves, through strikes, through submissions, it showed, okay, Jericho, you're lining up walls of Jericho using your moveset. I cannot be happier. Then he worked the head as well, because he's got a code breaker. This subtle little elements are what I need. It was great, and Ambrose, he knows how to sell pain and punishment throughout a match, especially considering he tried to climb to the top rope while being half groggy, then he ends up hitting his head on the apron on the way down, and looks like he's just been shot, and still sold like a boss. I mean, sure, I would have liked a few more body parts being sold. I would have liked to see Ambrose do a lot more of the taunting and a lot more of the insults, knowing he did that in the build-up, but inevitably what I got from here was pretty interesting. Not to mention the Dirty Deeds and Catapult table spot referenced what happened last week. Again, more story. I can live with this. And the near falls accelerated the drama, and then you've got the blood from Jericho. A little bit of blood on his nose, and Jericho slapping Ambrose to put him into crazy mode and have him get the win from there. It was slowly building. It slowly built. It had roller coasting peaks and troughs for both men, and I couldn't be happier. I just wish there was some more body selling, and I just wish Ambrose did more. That says something, considering he did quite a bit here. Then again, he did most of the selling. I wish he did some of the working, because that would have been much nicer, considering early on he did a lot of the job. 3, perfectly fine by me. The move variety is a 1, and this would have gotten a 0.5 had that table catapult move proven to be nothing else than sloppy. It was sloppy. It was really poorly executed. It looked horrible. I gotta take some points away, and it gets a 1 for that. Now, the crowd reaction was again a 3. Notably, the Y2 Jackass Y2J chants. Holy crap, a chant that AJ Styles started has actually stuck. Who would have thunk it? And the fact that, okay, some want to cheer Jericho, some want to boo him. Who gives a damn? The guy proved how much of a heel he was in this match. They kind of got on side in the end. They were loud for Ambrose throughout. They wanted him to win. And with all those near falls going in, they were going, oh, how is this thing going to end? And they were excited for when Ambrose finally got the win, and they loved it. This crowd was quite hot for this, despite midway through lulling out a bit, which is why this match gets a 3, not a 4, or even close to a 5, because they were not hot throughout this match. They were lulling during Jericho's wearing down of Ambrose, and it kind of took the pace down, and it just didn't work at all. And it gets a 3, but I'm happy with that. Then the match length and pacing comes through, a 2.5. This, I have to say, is an interesting one. This is the second longest match of the evening, 18 minutes and 28 seconds. For me, this match has gone on too long. Yeah, I felt the match went on way too long. It was dragging itself out unnecessarily. The pace was quick to begin with and then slowed as expected, but it never really sped up again. Even with Ambrose doing his usual rebound shtick, finding energy out of nothing and inevitably speeding up to win, that just felt unnecessary. It felt that the match just didn't need it. This could have ended at least 5-6 minutes sooner and it would have done a better job. That's the problem with it. I felt it could have been shorter. I felt it could have been paced better, because I felt the midway through when it was really slow. Nothing was happening. Even on a move front, nothing was sparkling in the eye. And I was saying to myself, this is getting quite boring. And you see, an 18-minute match that has me saying it's boring at times, that's not a good thing, that is for sure. Especially considering after King of the Ring 99, where that exactly happened in the WWF title match. That says a lot, doesn't it? Now we get to my enjoyment, which I gave a nice solid 2, because overall, while this match was somewhat entertaining, and it was, I felt it could have been a lot more. I know Jericho is good, I know Ambrose is good, but I felt that they didn't have the same chemistry in the ring as they did on the mic. And inevitably, the match came off as a lot more flat than it should have, but then again, what it delivered on was pretty good stuff, and it gets an average 2.5 star. So yeah, I at least gave it something for the credit it gets. But I expected this to be a lot better than what we got here, and that is very disappointing indeed. Now we get to the Women's Championship match, with Charlotte defeating Natalya to retain the title, in quite controversial circumstances indeed. I'm going to get to that first with the psychology, a 3.5. This was a very good psychological war between two families of wrestling who started it all against each other in 92 to create a rivalry that hasn't really gone away since. Nonetheless, Charlotte wooed in Natty's face. Natty went for the sharpshooter because she thinks, you know what, I'm not taking any of your crap, and repeated to do that even after Charlotte slapped her in the face. This is why I love Natalya. She is straight up badass. She doesn't care. She's like, you know what, you may insult me, but I can just out-wrestle you because I'm that damn good. Same is nice. And Charlotte's showboating almost cost her the match because she nearly got rolled up or put into the sharpshooter again. You can't go wrong with this. And Charlotte chops the chest, asking whether Natalya wants another one. Natalya then says, okay, I'll whack you with a chop as well. And this was just building up unbelievable antagonism. While the mic work between the two of them in the build-up to this match was cringeworthy, this was anything but. This was fun. And inevitably, I loved Charlotte again because she was working the leg with stretches, twists, wrenches, and a Boston Crab to work the figure eight. And then she suplexed into the ropes. I haven't seen this from her in a while without any meaning or background to do it, because I could see through the match Charlotte was getting frustrated. She wanted to inflict some damage and she couldn't find a way. She thought, fuck it, I'll just target the legs knowing that if I do this, not only can I put my finisher in, but you can't do the sharpshooter. It worked more so than her recent matches in the psychology department, which is a good thing for me because I was left smiling. And you can't go wrong with that at all. Then we get to Natalya kicking out of natural selection, which hadn't been done before. All's good, and Charlotte was pissed. Then the moonsault was hit perfectly and she's still kicked out. This made Charlotte angry because she's beaten all comers so far, and this is a challenge where I actually thought she could damn well lose. And we wondered, what was Ric Flair going to do? He did nothing. This match was no interference from Flair, no interference from Brett, and inevitably, Charlotte was being putting Natalya in the figure eight and the figure four, saying, tap, tap, damn you, and Charlotte just got yelled at, telling you, no, I'm not gonna tap, and, the psychology of this match was almost perfect. I wanted Natalya to work on a body part too, and that would have been great. I would have liked some interference from both of the men. That would have been great, to add extra to what already is here. The thing is, though, oh boy, the screw job finish. Oh yes, we have a screwy finish on a pay-per-view involving a Heart member. When the hell has that been done? Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, many hated this, and I have to admit, in impacting the finish, it was bad. But then I remembered who was refereeing this match. Charles Robinson. Little Nate. I wouldn't have been surprised if he took a bribe from Rick saying, yeah, I can get you some hookers, I can give you some money, just ensure that my baby wins. Oh, come on. It may seem stupid, but when I put that two and two together, it actually makes sense. It shouldn't, but it does. And that's all I can really say. The match was almost at 4 territory, and I would have been loving it there, but lo and behold, what else am I going to do? Move variety was a 1, nothing more than the usual here. Now for the crowd, which was a 2. I felt that the crowd were annoying me at times. Because while they were into the near falls and the drama towards the end, the early part of the match, they were appalling. They were chanting, we want Sasha, Suplex City, NXT. Like, what the hell are you doing? Focus on the damn match, you morons. And that ruined my impression on the crowd because for periods of it, especially like in previous Charlotte matches, where she wears down an opponent to line up submission moves, the crowd aren't interested. They want to see her moonsaults. They want to see the flips. They want to see the intensity and the high-flying action. But not all women's matches are like that. This has plagued Charlotte's reign up until WrestleMania. That people haven't given a damn. And that's the problem. They may have been loud towards the end and rectified it somewhat, but they haven't done it throughout the match. And it is really annoying. Because these two put on a damn good match here. And I look at the match length and pacing and think, yeah, the match was fluid and executed well, and it was an even contest for the most part, but the length of it was not what I wanted. 13 minutes? Good damn, put it 5 or 6, 7 minutes more, and we would have had a classic on our hands here. A possible 3-4 star match. And while I did enjoy this one, I am not happy with just how the psychology was so well built and was progressing to something great that the match was just too short, the crowd lost interest, the move variety was null, and inevitably the match just kind of fell flat at its conclusion, even though it made sense. I felt that the match should have been a lot more than this, considering what these two have done before. Even the match at Roadblock was surprisingly more than this, and this had more psychology. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, it's a 2.5-star match. Yes, 3 in a row. Am I going insane? This could have been a great match, but it's a decent, average to good. And I wished it was more, but what more can you do? Crowd, don't keep chanting for Sasha. Focus on the two women who are putting their bodies on the line for you. Because seriously, this kind of tactic is really pissing me off. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, outside of that, before we get to the main event, I have to talk about the decision that Vince made. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on this. I'm just going to gloss over it briefly. I like the decision that Shane and Stephanie run Raw. I know, a lot of people were saying we need the brand extension. We need to see these two at each other's throats. But inevitably, this is a good idea. I know we are in an age of instant gratification with pro wrestling. We want everything done now. The one thing I've realised is WWE have stuck a middle finger to us in that regard and are saying, you know what, we need to build this properly. If we're going to see Stephanie and Shane at war with each other, if that brand extension that we want, especially in my case, if it ends up happening, we don't want it to just happen at the snap of a finger. Having Shane and Stephanie at war in the same position would be interesting, and it played out in the main event tonight. Inevitably, seeing these two make decisions on the benefit of face and heel wrestlers, creating drama up and down the card. Regardless of where it is, alliances being made, everything else in between. This could be a very interesting story development. And I am looking forward to this. I am looking forward to Raw tonight, on Monday. Hell, by the time this video goes out, Raw will have already happened. And I don't even know what is going to happen. Inevitably, this is the thing I like about WWE. The McMahon family drama sells their stuff. It creates extra antagonism and extra interest for me and many others. It provides the intensity that not a lot of other angles can give. And that's brilliant in its own right. So you know what? Bring it on. If we do see a brand extension, fantastic. If we don't, and we just have these two at war with each other for months, who cares? Because depending on how they do it, it'll be brilliant. And I can't wait to see it. So bring on Monday. Bring on the next few weeks. Bring on the next few months. Because this angle could be brilliant. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, the promo was also very fun too. I know some hated it, but the crowd made it a million times better, and the crowd were being played to by all three people, and they were loud as hell. I can't go wrong with how good that was, and I found it thoroughly entertaining. Nonetheless, we have a main event to get to, so let's get right to it. Roman Reigns defeated AJ Styles to retain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Yeah, that happened. And people I know, you're angry, you're pissed, saying that, oh my god, how could Roman Reigns beat such a fantastic wrestler? The thing is, though, look at the ratings that I got on screen for each of these factors, okay? Outside of the move variety, this match was a bloody home run. Roman Reigns, when it comes to a big match, with enough story, with the right crowd, with the pacing and timing to perfection, he can pull good matches out of the bag. It happened with The Shield, it's happened against Brock Lesnar, it happened against Bray Wyatt a few times. The thing is, I have no problem with Roman Reigns' ability in the ring. I have only got a problem with his occasional booking problems and his occasional force-fed mic work. That's gone out of the window, the latter part, and inevitably, this is the kind of match I know Roman can do, and I know that Styles can do. So inevitably, the fact we got this is brilliant. Let's take a look at the pieces of what is the match of the night, the longest match of the night, and inevitably the best match of the year that I've seen on pay-per-views so far. First off, the psychology was a 4. Inevitably, AJ attacked the legs to stop Reigns from using his pace, which is good. And even though he tried to tackle the arms and wear down them to stop Superman punches, Reigns just overpowered him. And I loved it because Styles may be somewhat big, but he ain't as big as Reigns. Good balance and chemistry there. And the fact that JBL stated that Styles has to win the title to make his status as a phenomenal wrestler mean something? Beautiful, JBL. This is why I like you as a commentator, because you reference stuff like this. It's rare you do it, but I love it when you do. Then we have Styles selling his back following those double power bombs, and even after a fight back, after hitting him with a few forearms, he is still down, out of breath, selling it. What more can I say? Then you have the calf crusher working that bad leg of Reigns, which Reigns sells. Love it. Then this is where the story gets a bit nuts, because at this point it was only roughly like a 2. Then Reigns loses by a count out. Yeah, Shane comes in and says, hey, we're going to start this match again because it's complete bullshit to have a pay-per-view main event end like this. Lovely. The 450 splash is countered. Reigns finds a weak spot from that by hitting him in the ribs, which I loved. It's mistaken as a low blow, and Reigns is DQ'd. Stephanie comes out and says, oh, fuck it. We're not going to have this end on a DQ. We're going to have it go no DQ, no count out. Let's end this match properly. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, it's a 3. What more could possibly happen? Then you have Anderson and Gallows and the Usos come out, and they are laying roughshod to everyone. And it's fantastic. Fantastic. Not to mention, you have Reigns and Styles brawling into the crowd. Reigns showing his frustration and hitting a multiple big Superman punch after hitting another because he can't believe that Styles kicked out of the damn thing. And inevitably, as it was legal, Roman got beaten up. Styles sold the punches, crawling up the apron, which... little things, ladies and gentlemen, make me happy watching wrestling. That was one of them. He hits the forearm finish, but Reigns has his foot on the rope. Oh, the drama. Then, as I've said, the Usos came out. Styles and Reigns dive onto everybody, and it's beautiful. They're pulling out all the stops because they want it. They don't want the Usos or Anderson and Gallows involved. They just want to fight. Then, of course, Reigns somehow kicks out of a springboard 450, and off a springboard gets the spear for Reigns to win. And it was such a back and forth roller coaster. All I needed was a little bit of blood, possibly. And I would have liked Styles to have had a body part or two worked, and Reigns to show some fatigue. Even though he was selling that leg to perfection, he needed to show fatigue a bit more. And I could have taken a weapon shot or two, or maybe some even brawling backstage where something could happen. Just adding a little extra. That's all I needed, and it would have been even more than the 4 we've gotten here, because it was good. The move variety, a 2.5. And you may think to yourself, what little was there in here that I could rate this a 2.5? Let's see. A fireman carry neckbreaker, which is one of my favourite moves. Gotta love it. The phenomenal forearm from the ring outside into and breaking the announce table. Do I have to say more? Then you have the forearm being counted into a Superman punch midair. Oh yes, that's never been done. It was cool, but it was still beautifully executed, timed to perfection. Then the flying forearm off the barricade. Because I had to include it, it's fantastic. And that's the thing I like. This match did little things that made me jump out of my seat in excitement, and I can't go wrong with it. The crowd, 5. They, of course, booed Roman out of the building at the beginning, and they loved Styles, and this crowd was hot for the entire thing. Even bigger when the match results came through. Shane and Stephanie came out, they went mental. Then you have the interferences, they went crazy. The crowd interaction with the brawling, even better. The suicidal top rope moves, even more. The near falls, they were into everything. Even at the end when Roman won, they were respectful. Respectful to a guy they booed out of the building earlier on in the night. This is what I mean, everybody. And this is what is so good, that if you have a good match, people don't give a shit if you're good or bad. They will take their time to respect the work you've put in. And that's all we need here. Then we have the match length and pacing, a 4.5, and it was so close. I have to admit, it started off just as I expected. Nervous and stilted. Considering the crowd, I really couldn't blame them. And it built the tension up. And it progressively got faster, momentum shifting equally between both men. I felt that was a good thing because these two needed to show they were equals. Because some people don't think that Reigns isn't equal to Styles. And showing that he could keep up with him, throw a good few punches more, and inevitably show his dominance when necessary worked out beautifully. They may have had quick spells of offense, but it played into the bigger story that these two could easily wear each other out, and then some. Then, they have counter sequences, and it just flows so well. And sure, towards the end of the match, it felt a little rushed because of the restarts. They had to recoup the energy quickly, and that's where this match loses 0.5 of a rating. Sure, it went nearly 24 minutes. It was dramatic and there was a roller coaster of pace throughout. But that's the problem. If the match wasn't restarted and they didn't have to sell it, if they had the chance to sell it, I would have been even happier. Alas, not. And that's the problem with it. I would have liked it to have been a little cleaner in terms of pace at the end after those restarts. But it wasn't the case, and it loses a tiny bit. But it would have been so good if that wasn't the case. And my enjoyment was a 5, because, ladies and gentlemen, this match was so close to 4 3/4 star material, you have no idea. And the thing is, if it wasn't for the move variety, if the move variety was a 3 and the psychology was a 4.5, we'd be looking at nearly 5-star territory. This match was fantastic. And I honestly have to point out that if you think Roman Reigns can't wrestle, look at this. It is a great match. He did his job with the story. He played to the crowd. He kept pace with arguably the best wrestler in the world right now. This, for Styles, was a validation of just how good he is, and we already knew that watching him in the Rumble and the matches at Fastlane and WrestleMania respectively. And if you've watched his TNA and Ring of Honor and New Japan stuff, you already know how good he is. And I've watched a mixture of all of it, so I kinda know it's worth it. And the thing is, I never used to like AJ Styles as a character, but I always respected him as a wrestler. The thing is, what I'm seeing here, his character is coming out more and more, and I'm loving it. This was the match of the night without a shadow of a doubt, and I loved it. 4.5 stars. It was so close, ladies and gentlemen. If the move variety was a bit higher and the match length and pacing was pretty much perfect, we'd be looking at a 5-star match here. I am looking forward to their Extreme Rules match at the pay-per-view of the same name, because you know what? We could be in for something absolutely fantastic. Because as you know, weapons add move variety, weapons add possible blood, it adds extra areas for psychology and body selling. You know we're in for something fantastic. I'm hoping we get the good stuff on the same level we got here, because this is the kind of main event feel that I want from these shows. Now on to my final thoughts. Wow. WWE, what has happened with your pay-per-view product this year? Damn! To put it into perspective, we've had 2 6 out of 10s from WrestleMania and the Rumble, with some great matches accented by some meh. We then had Fastlane, which had 1 or 2 great spots and a few that underwhelmed. This show has only one negative, and that is the opening contest. The rest of this? What more could I say? No match outside of the opening contest got below 2.5 stars. We have a near 5-star, we have a 3.5 star, and all the rest were 2.5. This is great. This is the kind of show that makes me happy. That when people say, oh, WWE is boring and dead, it's awful, look at the pay-per-view product and just say to yourself, this is great. I know Raw Weekly may not be the best thing to watch, but this is why I love the pay-per-views, because this is what I review in depth. This is what makes sense. If the stories that play out on Raw work out on pay-per-view, then you know the pay-per-view and those stories have been executed well. And looking at this show, where the only real negative is an injured wrestler ruining a match through that, I can't fault this show, really. I mean, compared to some shows, yes, I would have liked a few more 3-star matches, then we'd be really talking about how good this show is. A 0 rating does take some shine off it, Because if that match was a 2.5-star match, I would happily give this show an 8 out of 10. No question. This show had fantastic wrestling, great body psychology, a crowd that even after the opening contest managed to get back into it and make it a fun night for all. We had commentary that was actually surprisingly decent despite a few botches, and inevitably had a decision for story that made me salivate. This show was a lot better than I ever expected it to be, and it is getting a rating that puts it in as the highest rated pay-per-view this year, in a year where so far the pay-per-views have been pretty damn good. Ladies and gentlemen, Payback 2016 is getting a very respectable, quite fantastic 7.75 out of 10. If you have not seen this pay-per-view yet, I am imploring you, go to the network, go to your Skybox office or cable provider and order this. This may not be an 8 out of 10 like I really wanted it to be, but come on. This show is worth your time and then some. This is a good thing, because Extreme Rules has to follow this. And I'm hoping it does well, because based on what groundwork this pay-per-view has laid out for me, I am looking forward to seeing what it does. Payback, in this role after WrestleMania, I love it. 7.75 out of 10, everybody. This was a night of wrestling that I loved watching. And honestly, even though it could have been a bit better, and it could have been absent the injury to Enzo, but those are little things. Little things, ladies and gentlemen. And, yeah. Bring on the next pay-per-view, because I am pumped for what WWE could bring us. And isn't that what we all want? Isn't that what we all want? We want to feel entertained, enthralled, and loving what we're seeing. At the moment, I am. I'm just hoping all of you, not all of you, but some of you, who are negative Nancy's about all this, just sit back and just enjoy what we're watching, because it could get even spicier in the coming weeks. And I will be sitting, waiting, and looking forward to it all. And there we go, guys. Payback 2016 is done. This review has probably gone near 45-50 minutes, as I do every time. But this is why I do reviews. To analyse, to critique. And the thing is, this show reminds me why I love doing this, because it made me happy to be watching professional wrestling, and I cannot be more than happy. What did you all think of this? Did you think that this show was overrated by me? Do you think I went overboard? Do you think the show was actually in line with my own opinions? Whatever your thoughts, give them down there in the comment section, and I can't wait to hear what you all say. And if you want to know when the next pay-per-view review happens, which will be a couple of days following Extreme Rules, and of course the Friday Flashback, and of course everything else we do on this channel, which is the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker playthrough, the MLP countdowns, and of course the upcoming anime content, which will be coming in the next month. Mark my bloody words, it is happening. All of that can be seen by clicking the subscribe button so you do not miss a single thing. And I'm exhausted, but I'm happy. I'm excited. Not just for the future of what I'm going to be doing, but inevitably the future of WWE at the moment, because I'm amazed how good their pay-per-view products have been this year, and I want to see more. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all as excited as I am, because the next few months could be brilliant for WWE, and I've already said it, but come on, bring it on. Because I may be the most excitable, over-hyperbolized, and overrated person in terms of hyping this stuff, but come on. We need to all be excited about wrestling, because not only that do we have all these independent wrestling shows being great, we have other companies picking up their game. Come on, everybody. Bring the smile back to pro wrestling. We need to do it. And if WWE are making us smile, we can't really ask for much else. I have been Freddie Thomas. You've been people listening. This has been the Payback 2016 review, results, and reaction video for the CC Network. And I will see you all next time. Cheers!